Welcome to Founders Friday. This is a tell-all for folks that are in a revenue-producing role, and we invite experts who are responsible for driving revenue for their business to share their experiences with us over here. Our goal is to educate and entertain. So remember to share your secret sauce, keep the responses punchy, let's have some fun. My guest today is Nicole Clark. She's the co-founder and CEO of Trellis Research, based out of Los Angeles. Trellis Research is democratizing access to the law by making state trial court records and legal data more accessible as a necessary step to bring greater transparency to our judicial system. They offer a unique product, a searchable data analytics platform with AI-based insights that litigators can use simply to Google insights into judges' rulings, motions, and dockets. So, Nicole, thank you so much for joining us today on Founders Friday. Let's maybe just kick it off with, share with the audience your journey to founding Trellis Research and what you did before you started the company.
Sure. So I was a litigator prior to Trellis. I did a lot of work in labor and employment, which is entirely litigated at the state court level, state trial court. And so I was in state trial court constantly, and I honestly just couldn't believe that it was so difficult to access information at the state trial court level. One thing many people don't know is sort of when an attorney gets a case, they send around an email internally at their firm that says, does anyone have any intel on judge, whoever they've been assigned to? And then that is the way that lawyers are making strategic decisions about litigation. And it just kind of blew my mind that that was happening. So I continued on for a number of years, wondering why lawyers weren't more data focused and utilizing and making sort of data-backed decisions. Happened to know some intelligent engineers and just started complaining about the problem that really there was this entire, really the largest court system in the world that was entirely untapped, that's fragmented across thousands of individual courts. And there's no single searchable database for it. And so what we did was we started pulling data, and I continued to use it in practice. We pulled from sort of the courts that I was appearing in most often at that point. And for the next couple of years, I used Trellis in practice for my own use case, really sort of validating that this was in fact a real business and was going to give me a competitive advantage. And
so just you build this out for yourself first. Is that
correct?
Is this how this started? Wow, correct. That is amazing. Yes,
absolutely. And for a number of years, determined that yes, it is valuable before I had the courage to actually jump and launch Trellis.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So how long were you using the product yourself before you decided to launch it more publicly?
It was a full 2 years, and there was two things going on then. One, I was validating, but also we were amassing a substantial data set that made more sense for us to go live with.
Fantastic. And now, you've recently raised a substantial Series A round, so congratulations on that. And our audience typically consists of founders and folks that are in senior roles that watch the show. Share a little bit about what that fundraise journey looked like, and what were some of the challenges that you had to overcome that were somewhat unique to your situation, and something that the rest of us can learn from.
I think every fundraise is going to have all of its own unique circumstances and obstacles associated with it. It's funny, I look back when at an early company, I remember thinking that companies that made it to Series A, that was a real company. And now we're here and we're still so early. And it's so funny to think about sort of my thought process and how that's changed since then. A is obviously more numbers based. So that along with an early stage company where we've had sort of various pricing model changes and just making sure that we had really developed metrics to go forward with, which of course we're maturing now and now we can do, but it was a lot of work to prep for it, for sure.
Yeah. And I know that I've met your co-founder, Elon, and maybe share a little bit of how the two of you met, and a little bit of the dynamic of how the two of you work together. I actually read a quote from him that says, "Nicole's like a kite and I'm the string." So I would love to understand what that really means from your perspective.
Absolutely. So I was actually a solo founder for about 1.5 years, and I was working with an executive coach who said, I've got someone that I think you need to meet. And really at that point, I started working with Elon as a technical advisor. He was there to really help with strategy, communication between the engineering team and myself. And slowly we started working together, and he had such just ridiculously analogous skill set to exactly what we needed, that the puzzle pieces seemed to fit, and we were almost sort of more valuable together with the two pieces that we had. And it was just obvious. It was obvious to us. It was obvious to the investors. We started growing rapidly. And so right around then and we'd been working together about 1.5 years at that point, come on as a late stage co-founder and really build out this business with me. So that's how we did it. And how we work together, we're very, very different. And I think that's important in co-founders. I think you should have differing skill sets. And so I think I can dream really big, and I can keep dreaming. And the nice thing about Elon is that he puts it into sort of executable steps, so that we roll back, what is my big vision? And then really, what do we need to accomplish next? And then get those things done. And it's really helpful to be able to have the combination of, you can see the vision so far out, but you also know what to do in the meantime to sort of get to the next steps to continue marching forward.
Yeah. It's the dynamic that's very interesting. And I'm glad to hear that. I think from our perspective, it's very, very similar. If you were to meet my co-founder, Aman, he dreams big, as do I, but he's also the one who keeps me grounded in reality on what's going to happen next to get to where we want to be. So I think that impatience and that, that urgency to keep moving is so critical to building a great business. Now, tell me a little bit about why is it so hard for litigators to get access to this data, and what does the world look like without Trellis?
So right now, if you were litigating in trial court, and basically a helpful understanding is that there's always state and federal courts, both have trial courts, both have court of appeals, and then roll up to the Supreme Court. And at the trial court level on the federal side, there's one unified system for all the federal courts across the nation. On the state trial court side, every single county has their own court. So if we take California, for example, Los Angeles, separate from San Diego, separate from San Francisco, every court hosts their data separately, maintains it separately. Wow. There's no integration across any of them. There's no structure. Yeah. And what that means is you have a bunch of fragmented systems where you can't actually pull strategic information. So that's why it's very, very difficult for lawyers right now. Absent Trellis, the way you would try to get any of this data, and it's still difficult, you would have to know a case number. You'd have to go to the county where the case was pending, and you'd have to know the case number to pull up information on that case, which means if you know the case number, you already know the case exists, you already have some information about it, so you can't think about things strategically or zoomed out in a way. And really Trellis takes that sort of limit away. Do you want to search by judge? Do you want to search by legal issue? Do you want to search by opposing counsel? How about a combination of those things and really get some insights across the nation?
Very cool. Very cool. And what are some of the challenges that you faced in digitizing this data? So, what format does it exist in? And obviously to bring it online, what are some of the hoops you have to jump through to make that happen?
It's not sort of a hoop that you jump through and then you're through. That is a constant struggle. I look at the way that it's so difficult as part of why we have a business, right? If this was easy, it would have been done already.
Exactly.
It's incredibly difficult. Every single court hosts their data in a different format. There is absolutely no structure. What we have to do is basically create the structure on our side and map the data back to Trellis as the single sort of unified data set. So the normalization of the data health, that's a constant. And now think about that for sort of thousands of different courts. It's a massive ingestion and structure system.
Yeah, got it. So very interesting. And just the problem that you described clearly needs a solution. So glad that Trellis is out there. Now, you were your own first customer. How did you then go about acquiring kind of the next set of customers that could validate that approach that you were taking for you, so where you have the confidence to go invest your time and effort into this?
So very early on, I decided that I was going to jump from my job to be able to sort of devote full-time BD attention to this, because being a litigator takes a lot of energy and I just wasn't able to do both at the same time. And so I told my firm that I was at that I was going to launch this new business. And they actually had watched me over the last 2 years while I was using the product win repeatedly. So I'd won all my motions during that time. And they were able to connect the two. And they said, hey, why don't you stay on site, bring your engineers on site? And for a couple of months, we just worked from the firm's offices, really having an iteration and feedback loop directly with the attorneys. So they were our customer number one.
Got it. And then, and so, you've obviously acquired a number of past that early customers, and you've acquired a number of customers. We talked last time. And actually spent some time on your website, and it was very interesting that I could simply just go to the site and start searching for data and immediately start using the product without having to even give up my name or contact information or any other information. So the gate to get in and get you to use the product is fairly easy to get through.
Absolutely.
Now, there's a whole movement around product-led growth and this whole PLG motion that everybody's fascinated by. So tell me, what are some of the key learnings around this sort of acquisition and conversion process that you've come across as you've built this out?
Well, I think particularly, and I can speak to what I know, which is building in for sort of the legal vertical as our first stop. And it is incredibly difficult to find distribution into lawyers and law firms. It is a very slow, sort of painful sales cycle. And when we first started the business, I thought we'd be enterprise, B2B, it would be that direct sales. And then I hit the sales cycle and there was just no way. It was very clear that we wouldn't make it to our next fundraise in one sales cycle to be able to prove to the investors that this was valuable data. So what we did was we tested a whole variety of different things, one of which was we created judge biography pages, just basic bios on judges. No one had done that before. And those started getting so much traffic that we ended up having sort of thousands of different landing pages into the product. And then, of course, Elon, my co-founder, was the founder of DocStock, which sold to Intuit, very similar SEO, freemium customer acquisition model that he successfully exited. And so we have that knowledge base that's able to help. And we ultimately decided we would just open it up and let customers come to us. I knew as an attorney, and I knew that my colleagues were starting their research on Google. So how do we get them how do we get them to come to us, basically? And then how do we give them enough of the product for them to determine value before they have to put a credit card down? And so there's always that interplay there of how much do you give away for free and when is it too much? But how do you make sure that people understand value and make the decision themselves, right?
Yeah, very cool. And Nicole, as customers sign up, obviously, I noticed I could just go in there and start using the product and just start signing up. Now, what signals do you look for to figure out which customers are actually serious about what they're doing here, and then you need to convert them over into paid accounts? So what are the signals that you typically look for, where your team looks for?
It's a variety. So one is going to be sort of the type of usage. What are they searching? There are a lot of things that are more obviously sort of professional legal research as opposed to just running a general search. But it's going to be the amount of usage, the number of logins, whether they signed up for a free trial, and then what they actually did on the product. Were they looking at analytics? Were they searching? Were they downloading documents? Those are all sort of intent signals to us. The biggest of which is when we watch customers from the same domain, from the same entity, all start to sign up around a similar time. And so we'll have 10 or 20 folks from the same organization. That's a signal that then it's time to go into sell top down to that organization.
So that's your internal referral process that gets you clued in that there's an opportunity here. So that's really cool. Yeah, got it. So now, one of the things I hear about as I dig deeper into the PLG motion and talk to some of the folks in this domain, there's this myth out there that the product team essentially takes over every function and that you really don't need sales or marketing at that point. I think you recognize the reality is very different, but it'd be great if you can share your perspective on what does that internal dynamic look like and how does it evolve between the go-to-market side of the business and the product side of the business?
Yeah. So I think PLG super early on is really necessary. It's very, very difficult as a small organization to have a large sales team. Yeah. And so to the extent that you can start to get customers in that way themselves through the product, that's essential. In order to really grow large enterprise contracts, you're going to have sales involved. It's a different relationship. It's a longer term sales cycle. I look at our PLG as our lead gen funnel, really. It is basically folks that are in the funnel that are paying us while we're potentially growing their organization later on. And so it's a dynamic, you're absolutely right, where you have to figure out when is the right time to make the handoff and to have a human start to interact with a customer.
Got it. So it's not an either or motion. You started out with the assumption that you're going to go build a B2B enterprise sales model.
Yep.
Well, you have to do that eventually, but this is a great way to get you started first, to where you can get a lot of strong signal about what your customers are actually doing before you bring in the enterprise sales person into the mix. Is that fair?
No, that's exactly right. And I would say I was our enterprise salesperson up until now, right?
And you're always going to be, as will I.
I'm always going to be. I know. You always think, but it was helpful for me because I got to understand the playbook of how you start someone from a freemium individual and you grow them into a large multi-year enterprise contract. And now with that learning, now we have something that we can actually create a playbook on and make more scalable. But it's definitely, there's a lot of work and a lot of strategy that goes on from figuring out the PLG motion to figuring out how you scale sales.
Awesome. Okay. I want to shift gears a little bit. So, there's a lot of talk about diversity in the workforce and particularly in the tech industry. Yep. So as a woman entrepreneur and, founder of a successful business, what advice do you have for women who are trying to make it in the technology sector?
Well, it depends on if you're, so if you're just trying to look for a position at a really strong tech company and you want to sort of continue your career growth, I think you're in a great place right now. I think that everyone is recognizing that diversity is super important and that we need to start diversifying. So I think go after your dream job. I mean, I really say that, or get in at an organization early that you can see has potential. And as you grow and develop your career, you're going to be able to rise in the ranks as the company grows. And so I would definitely say that. In terms of female founders and how we sort of create diverse workforces, or in general, a male founder too, right? Yeah. You actually have to, it's sort of a chicken and egg problem. You have to have some diversity in order to attract more diverse candidates in. And so that's just something to think about from the very start, is how can you have from early on a little bit of diversity in your team that will make it much easier to grow that diversity as you get bigger. Got it.
No, I think that's really good advice, both for founders as well as for whether you're looking for a job or being an entrepreneur yourself. As a woman, as a diverse candidate, what's a great way to go to grow your career? Now I want to come back to you a little bit. We did a little bit of research and found an article where, when you were asked about your life motto, you essentially are quoted as saying that life unfolds in proportion to your courage. So I mean, it's very inspiring to hear that, but I would love to hear the backstory that led you to that conclusion. How would you characterize that to where that is your personal story? Tell us a little bit more about that.
It's interesting, I would say I didn't start out saying I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I'm going to figure out a problem to solve and build a business off of it. It was very, very different. I went to law school, had a very risk-averse career in general, was trained in being risk averse. And so it took just a ton of the ability to build up the courage to say, I'm going to jump from my super stable job at a young child. I'm going to go and do this and basically start from scratch. I had not had any experience as a founder in the startup world prior to that. And so it was those 2 years of me validating the product that really gave me the courage to jump. But it's one of those things where it's almost, jump and the net will appear. Like, you have to take the leap in order for the universe to come through and help give you the pieces to move forward.
That's wonderful. And so what's next for Trellis Research? Where does it go from here?
Growth. I mean, we now get to focus on its, growth and scaling. So we are now 12 states, 365 counties. We want to cover another 10 and really just continue. We have so many additional analytics to build up on top. So coverage, customers, and then features, and really growing and taking the company to the next level. It's super exciting.
Fantastic. Well, this has been an awesome conversation, Nicole. I've learned a lot from this discussion. I love the fact that you started out building a product for yourself and used it for a long time before you started to open it up to others, and just demonstrates how grounded this is in reality as you're building this out. And as you said, every stage of the company is different. It's great to have a co-founder that is highly complementary to the way that you think about things and keeps us grounded. So love the story. Tell us a little bit about how people can find you if they were to want to get in contact with you about either Trellis or reach out to you directly. Absolutely.
So for me in particular, I'm on LinkedIn, and you can also, I'm Nicole_A_Clark on Twitter. And then the company itself, if you just want to come and check out, I'm a nerd. Even if you aren't in the legal industry, it's really interesting to search the trial courts. You can search the president and see the interesting lawsuits that come against them, or celebrities. There's all kinds of really interesting stuff in there, newsworthy. So that's easy. You just jump in and start searching at trellis.law/search.
That's perfect. And I'm not a litigator or a lawyer. And I found that going through some of this data was so fun and interesting to, as you just said. As always, it's great to connect with you and hear your thoughts. And to our audience, if you have any thoughts on Trellis Research, definitely go check out their website and look into what they're doing. If you have any questions about how to run a PLG motion for your business, we'd love to help you and help you figure that out. You can find us at immersa.co. Nicole, thank you so much for your time today. This has been wonderful.
Thanks, Asim. Great being here.
Thank you.